Welcome to UberCube, the podcast about Cube, but with refreshments. I'm Anthony Mattox, and I'm here, as I am every week, with my co-hosts. May, welcome to the show.
Wait a second, you're not our Anthony.
Well,
it's a takeover.
That's open for debate currently.
Yeah, it might be, actually. I feel like the applications were open. You guys just told me, and I didn't pass the audition.
I was replaceable like 5 minutes ago, so maybe you might.
We were looking for a Brummy that was willing to work for free. That was the description on the internet.
Yeah, good build.
Before we're all just replaced.
Nice looking.
And I'm also here with my co-host, Anthony, a.k.a. Uber Bear.
Hi, how you doing today? Welcome to the
Not too bad.
show,
And
me.
Stu, just Stu.
Thank you very much. Just Stu's been a while, but Anthony, thank you. You've been such a great co-host all these years. I just wanted to say how much I appreciate you and I love you. Thank you.
It'd be cool to see if you actually turn on my microphone for this one, but it's been good to be here alongside recording after all these many years since you started.
The memories.
Memories like the... Okay, anyway.
So, we have an interesting episode lined up for today, in addition to Anthony Mattox from the Lucky Paper Radio, and we're going to get his partner in crime on here too. We have big plans, all the takeovers. But we're going to rekindle an idea that we fired out to the universe a couple of weeks back, and it was the Sushi-Go Cube. And the gist of this cube was for listeners to send in ideas of roles. And what does a role mean to you? Basically, we're trying to show the simplicity sometimes, or how to community build a cube to basically help people to get past that writer's block, if you will, that some curators do feel. Anthony, you're familiar with that, like the stuck point. How do I get out there?
You look at me and say, you look like a guy who's struggled with creativity. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
It's true. We all do it. We just you want to come up with an idea. You're hoping that everyone loves it. You know, that whole vibe, right? The brand new cube feeling, and you're hoping the universe will accept it and everybody will play it and everybody had a wonderful time. And we've kind of talked about this and reinforced this during numerous episodes that it's quite all right that your first iteration, version 1, it's going to be good, but it's not going to be it's not going to be great. They never are. None of us are. You got a lot of curators in here now, with the exception of Stu, the Doom Cube.
Which is just flawless.
Of course, when it comes out. Last episode, we talked about this.
It's in the refinement stage right now. We're getting there.
So the concept is that you would send in a couple of cards, 3 to 5, that followed the vibe of a sushi roll. So we've kind of done some in the past, and I would encourage you to reflect back on that episode. It's our Sushi Go episode. This will be a continuation of it. But the gist was, what is your nigiri? What type of protein were you using in the roll, etc., right? And then you would find magic cards, getting those creative juices flowing, and plug them in, and then kind of just send me a little pitch, right? And then I'd upload it to the community cube so everybody can see it. So that's kind of the idea. The UberCube Discord is one way to do that, and or I'll have a link for the cube in the show notes. If you don't want to do that, then you can just put it in the submission area, or the area we put comments, and I'll see what you're wanting to do. Write me a little write-up, what your intent is, and I'll see what I can do with it. I'll get entered in so the world can see it, and I'll give you credit for it on the show.
That's right. We've also got our cube help. I mean, throw it in the Discord. I'm sure Anthony will be happy to chuck it into Cube Cobra and document it and see where it goes.
Which Anthony's doing this, by the way.
Congratulations.
Okay, cool. I got this work.
So what I'm hearing is this isn't a shoe-in for me. I have to pitch these 4 cards to you.
Correct.
I have to sell it.
Yeah, you got to sell a little bit. People have to want to sit down and dine on this roll that you've now served me, right? Don't serve me no gas station roll. Don't. Somebody already actually did that. They built me.
Whoa. Okay. I will go to a gas station and eat me some chicken livers, and I'll eat me a little sushi roll if I'm feeling it. Okay, so let's...
The gas station food. We were about midway on the first CubeCon, and I said I was hungry. We pulled over to the gas station. Right. We all got food, and we all regretted that decision promptly.
Except for the gas station with the moldy food everywhere. Yeah. Can't remember what it was, but anyway, let's start out with, as we always do, let's start out with the refreshments. For our host of many years, Mr. Anthony Mattox, what you got for us today?
Well, I've been thinking about this for many years, literally since your first episode, the question of what am I going to drink if I'm ever on the show. And my first instinct, because I know you guys are always about trying to, make connections and make things sort of synergistic. The first thing that came to my mind was a curate, which is a fantastic cocktail. And actually, I got the recipe for it from this book that Noah from the Madison Cube group gave me delicious cocktail. It means in French the Old Square, referring to the old town of New Orleans. So we got that connection there. It's also traditionally served over a very large ice cube, which I make my own large clear ice cube. So I felt like there were just a lot of good cube connections there. The only problem is now I have this big ice cube clicking around in my drink, so I'm going to make heavy use of my sneeze button for the first couple minutes here. But that's what I'm going to be drinking.
That's all part of the ambience, and I will say, as a old-fashioned enjoyer myself, I am also a fellow large ice cube creator. It's all part of the vibe of the cocktail. So, well, that sounds delicious.
So part of our theme outside of designing of the Sushi-Go Cube as a collective, as a community, so that everybody can see what it's like to build your first cube, or how people, like we joked about, get the creative juices flowing and bounce off one another. But Stu's pausing me because I'm going to go ahead and crack my drinks too, because I'm excited to talk about this.
Well, let's go to May. May, what have you got for us this evening?
I'm actually drinking a Marcella Gourmet Dark Cream Italian-style soda. It is very tasty.
I can't read this because I don't have my reading glasses on.
This is from the Boonshine Brewing Company, and I picked up this Hatchet coffee porter. They had a bit of a thing on today, visual.
Did you buy me a beer on sale, man, like the one that's expired?
Do you think I would ever?
Yes, I do. Yeah, yes, I do.
But no, it
beer.
wasn't. But no. All right,
let's crack them open. So we got a little bit of a sub-theme with the Sushi Go, which as we wind down the episode, Anthony is going to introduce his role, and we'll talk about some of the roles that were submitted by previous listeners, and we're going to give them shout-outs like Necroid, etc. But we're going to talk about a little bit of food. This is a very food-driven episode. Since we're talking about sushi, we're going to talk about, what do you do for Cube? What's the food of choice? How do you, get the people to sit down and enjoy themselves? And our host, we're going to start with this individual, Anthony number 1. What do you do?
I mean, how much time do you want to give to this?
All the time.
All the time?
We can be an extended episode just for the fun.
All right. Well, I definitely go a little overboard often with the cube dinners. I really love hosting a cube draft and cooking dinner. For a little while, I was going really hard, and we'd do like an afternoon draft, then dinner, then an evening draft, and it got to be just a lot to organize. So I've been maybe reeling it in a bit, but it's still a lot of fun to cook a big dinner, host people. I mean, to me, magic is so much about the gathering. It's about the social experience, and I love just sharing my passion for food as well. But I have sort of cycled down to a couple sort of core menus that I oscillate around, which work really well. So I love doing a taco night, so I'll get, a couple kilos of tortillas from our local tortilleria, do a couple different grilled meats or braised meats. I love a braised pork taco. And then, make a couple different salsas and some other toppings. It's great because it just works really well for, we have a lot of different dietary restrictions, so everybody can kind of work around what they are interested in, what works for them. So tacos is a great option. Sort of like an Italian-style meze is kind of a similar thing where it's just like, I'm just going to make a bunch of little dishes. Here's the buffet. Go pick and choose what is going to be good for you. And then sometimes I just go crazy and just want to make ramen, which is a terrible idea to do like from scratch for 8 to 12 people, but it is really fun and satisfying to do in the end.
That's awesome.
How about yourself, May? Do you do anything particular regarding food when you're getting people together to gather?
I'm not going to pretend that I am a fantastic host because it doesn't come up very often, and when we do, we usually order in. But there have been several times where I've insisted that I wanted to prepare some food for people, and I've done, my go-to has been chicken wings, just because I could quickly throw them in the air fryer and get some really nice, just chicken. I like chicken.
You said that in a way that I like it, but it scares me a little bit.
This is a little sidebar between Stu and I.
A little bit of my gremlin coming out.
I'm going to let Stu have one, and it's sausage night whenever we bring over all the sausages from Lowe's.
There has been, not to lay any kind of innuendo on here, but there has been a lot of sausage at our cube evenings, and I do like me some sausage.
I like the bratwurst.
Yeah. We've got a local sausage bar at our grocery store. They do some real nice custom sausages. And I haven't done this yet. And I'm going to put this out there as something that I plan to do for our next cube evening. I'm also a big chicken enjoyer, but what I used to do a lot for family and friends, I used to make these butterflied, made-to-order chicken breasts. So I'd get a bunch of chicken breasts for whoever was coming over, and I would butterfly them And then I would basically prep them to order, and you could have them stuffed with whatever your heart's desired. I would have all kinds of vegetables, cheeses, a little bit of sausage, all that kind of stuff. And then I would roll them, wrap them in bacon, and then I would bake them in a Pyrex with just a little bit of stock at the bottom, just to keep them nice and moist.
That's what I need to do.
And then,
sounds delicious.
Broil them just to get that bacon a little crispy. And that was
So you're basically
like
making like a gourmet double down is what we're talking about here.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. It was.
He probably just went to KFC and ordered theirs.
Cheese stuffed chicken with bacon. I mean, it sounds fantastic.
It was unbelievable, and you just slice it up, and oh dear.
Now
I'm
expect
salivating.
this going forward as we start moving to the fall.
Well, you just said I ordered from KFC, so you are getting KFC, and everyone else is getting their custom ordered chicken.
Get the
breast.
pre-stuffed KFC.
Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm having a large gathering, and we'll say I do have a requirement because the work I'm about to explain, and I'm going to break it down by the recipe and give you pretty much the whole idea here. If I know I'm going to have 12 to 15 people for a large cube, semi-large cube night, right? And I know that it's locked in, people are going to roll up around, we'll say 6:30 is about the number I'm looking for. I will smoke pretty much manually. I do everything in the backyard, so I'll do it with cherry oaked wood. I will do about 10 to 15 pounds of Boston butts, and I'll try to get them started by at least 5 a.m., if not earlier. Get the fire going, get that good white smoke, and I'll keep it at about 210 degrees. And basically the simple recipe for about 6 hours, I'll have my Boston butts that I dry rub the night before with like a competition style barbecue that I've got different varieties that I pick up, like mostly cherry flavored is what I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. And I'll let them just kind of marinate in that overnight. And then I'll throw them in the smoker, and I'll keep them with the tin foil underneath it for a certain duration. And then about 6 hours in, after it's got a good bark around it, and this is what I learned from our local, we have a competition barbecue chef that actually has a place called Prime Barbecue.
Chris Prieto.
Yes. Prieto. And he's been featured on the Food Network, and he's competed on Bobby Flay's team. So I actually have a link in there so people can see that. He sat down with me because I kind of told him the problem that I was having with my smoke. There's good smoke and there's bad smoke. And if you get too much bad smoke injected into your pork or whatever you're smoking, brisket, whatever, ultimately it'll cause you, I'll just say it, indigestion, right? It's really great eating it, but miserable a couple hours later. And his trick, and he went into the food science of it, is after that 6 hour mark, he'll lay a stick of margarine on there. And then he'll wrap it up.
Specifically margarine, right?
Not butter,
margarine.
And he wanted the properties of the margarine so that it basically encapsulates the meat and it seals it in. So you've got that good bark, but it stops that smoke in case you go below the steady 210 and you start getting bad smoke, and it prevents that. It just makes like a good layer of it, traps the oils in. And he went into all the science. This was a 45-minute conversation with a barbecue chef that's competed. So he was very serious about the chemistry behind this, but it's just a stick of margarine. And ever since they did that, about 15 hours in, it falls off that center bone and you've got pulled pork, and it is divine. And then I'll complement that with some Mexican street corn. I'll do some baked beans that I'll actually throw in the smoker. But my secret at the end, when I do have time, and I've got the grill going too, this is a neat one, and it's kind of missed the summer opportunity, and this is going to be wild for most people. I'll actually take some watermelon, cut it into wedges, and I'll treat them like a steak, like a watermelon steak. And this has actually become quite popular lately, where you'll sear it and it'll lock in those juices, and it loses kind of that sweetness and kind of transitions to kind of your, I guess, medium flavored melon. So it doesn't have that too much sugar, I guess, constitute to it.
Yeah, I've heard people do that with other fruits as well, like pineapple and stuff.
I do pineapples too a lot. And then I'll take some white cheddar and let it just seal down on it. And that sounds weird, but it's the most savory, kind of the mixes of the salt from the cheddar meeting that kind of that melon that's just kind of seared. Oh my God, it's just the best. Like,
we release our episodes on a Monday morning, and I'm just thinking of anybody might be out there that's, driving to work, eating a banana because they're like rushing, and they're listening to you talk about smoked pork butt and Anthony's incredible set and May's chicken wings, and they're thinking, man, this biscuit that I just got from McDonald's, I just want to chuck this out the window and go get me some good food, because that's what I'm thinking right now, because I ate a yogurt.
I was just thinking, I'm so glad I had a snack right before this record. I would be in bad shape.
I did not.
I didn't. Mistakes were made.
Yeah, and if you have that gas station sushi right now, you should probably just go and find a dumpster and then go get some sushi.
I would take some dumpster sushi right now. Like, that's how I'm feeling. This is correct. Okay, let's get on with, because we've talked about food. Now let's talk about Cube. So let's talk about the ethos of this, right? So this was about building a role, right? Let's start with that, because this is where like the social media and the engagement with the community all began when it came to this episode and to this idea. It was, let's reach out, let's put it out there on the Twitters, the X's, whatever you want to call it, build a sushi roll, and then take that as kind of like your archetype beginning of the cube, and run with it, roll with it, and let's see what we can do as far as building some themes and archetypes within a cube, right? So this is very top-down, right? Scryfall, an incredible tool for doing something like that. Artistic liberties, absolutely wide open. Like, you could say, hey, I'm going to go full on. If it looks like a crab and smells like a crab, I'm going to use that crab for my sushi roll, or I'm going to find something that maybe represents my rice, or, you know, my seaweed or whatever. So this became something very interesting when it came to all of these ideas that we were starting to get in. Let's start with that, right? Let's start looking at some of these ideas that we got in, because some of these were pretty cool.
Yeah, so we got a good friend, Shoop. And I'll kind of highlight some of these before we get into Anthony's great reveal that we haven't seen yet, because he's still pondering on how Anthony number one's going to pitch this to us. But Shoop actually decided he wanted to put together a sushi roll himself, and he made his ingredients as such. His first card, to help get people like, what are we kind of doing here, right? The first one was hard evidence, and it had crab in it, and I'll include these in the show notes. The next one was drown in the lock, because it's water-based, so I see where their headspace is at. But then they get kind of interesting for their other representations, and what they did is they broke down the components of a sushi roll, and I don't have that right in front of me. But the next one was necrobloom. And that was, I guess, kind of the what do you call it? The
seaweed,
the
maybe?
Seaweed wrap.
Yeah, I would think that.
The nori, if it was, right? I think it's the nori. And then the next one, which I don't remember exactly why, but it was basically Marinette Apprentice. And each one of these had like a story component that the individual...
It was a spider roll, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's got spider
right.
in the
It's definitely
artwork,
spider roll.
right? So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for doing that, because I'm like struggling here a little bit. I didn't, because I loaded them up on Cube Cobra, and then I used my own little writing flair and kind of gave a description, because what I'm building is a menu. So you, the listener, when you see this on the main page, you'll see basically the Shoop spider roll, which does say right there. Actually, now I'm reading it out loud.
Let's just address...
The mystery is revealed.
Let's just combat the elephant in the room right now, right? So I went through this exercise, and I will say that I attempted to make my sushi roll as appetizing as possible, right? To the listener, understand that this isn't going to be laid out on a plate. However, I kind of feel like, not that Shoot missed the mark, right? Because you're definitely trying to be creative from a Q perspective. But let's just face the fact that their sushi roll, is crab, water, plant, and spiders. Now, I don't know about you.
Oh, there is a spider in the image. I see it now.
Delicious.
I don't know about you. I'm not, I can't say that I'm knowledgeable about edible spiders, but I'm really just looking at this, trying to find the appetizing element of this sushi
Good show.
roll.
Good side note here. At CubeCon last year, you had a good little interaction with someone. They invited you over for dinner in the hotel. Do you recall this interaction? The tarantula conversation? You came over. You were just like ghost white. And he's like, this gentleman just offered me to come over to try to do food grade tarantula.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Okay,
Gotta share this.
Let's, to be clear though, it was food grade tarantula. However, the idea was not that I was getting invited over to eat it, although there was an insinuation that I could try it if I wished. Spoiler alert, no, I do not wish to go to the hotel room of anyone, regardless if it's my mother or a stranger that I met at CubeCon, and attempt to eat food grade or otherwise tarantula. But I think the conversation was around the fact that it had uses, like applications outside of human consumption, but it was safe for human consumption. Spoiler alert, again.
I think that's probably true of most tarantulas.
I would think so.
I've heard they kind of taste like crab.
I was told that it does taste a bit like crab, but also it tastes a bit like chicken because everything tastes like chicken. I'm assuming that was some
I bet it
kind
tastes
of
a lot
season.
like tarantula.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
ultimately though, it tastes like tarantula.
Yeah, it's that 5% tarantula opportunity. I'm going to give
If
a
it
hard
looks
pass.
like a spider, walks like a spider,
It's probably a duck.
it's a tarantula. Anyway, so but cool. Let's talk about this from a cube perspective, right? So now we've got this, all right, hard evidence. So it's creating a token, it's creating this crab, it's got a counter spell, it's got the Necro Bloom, right? Let's go over this one real quick. So this is one colorless, white, black, green for a legendary creature plant. It has landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 0/1 green plant creature token. If you control 7 or more lands with different names, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token instead. So kind of like a Field of the Dead. And then it also has land cards in your graveyard, have dredge too. So immediately I'm thinking, got some tokens going on, got some dredge going on, and I love me some dredge. Also got some landfall aspects as well. So this to me screams I love cards like this. It's difficult to cast because it's tricolor. It's got definitive archetypes that it can support. And it's a fun card. Like, I'm never going to play it. Maybe there's some crazies out there that have got this as a commander. But this is a cool card. Like, I've never played with this card. And if I rolled up and I saw this pick one, pack one, I'm like, I don't care about power level. I want to play that.
So first up, we've got, actually I should introduce it. This is Morska's Undersea Delight by Chef Is It Skill. Is it skill or is it skill?
Don't know.
That's the problem with is it. They're always hard to understand.
Skill.
This one starts out with Shark to Crab. Then we've got Mana War, Chrome Host Seed Shark, and Deep Glow Skate. So we've got a little bit of a +1/+1 counter theme. This is implying that you're going to, I guess, Chrome Host Seed Shark also interacts with +1/+1 counters. So hopefully we'll have a bunch of other non-creature spells to work with our Chrome Host Seed Shark and the rest of this cube.
I thought it was interesting how you can see where like Shoop Above and then Is It Skill, they're definitely known like strong curators. So while they're picking the cards, they're picking them with intent so that they can break out and have archetypes from it. Like they're designing archetypes.
Eating with a jellyfish.
Whereas you look at like, there's one that's a little bit before that I want to talk about.
It's called a jellyfish roll.
Yeah.
This is the thing with sushi rolls. You just put the word in front of roll and you're good to go. It's actually not that
All
difficult.
right.
You don't have to try that hard is what's interesting. But like they thought about like, if I did these 4 cards, how would these 4 cards expand into the cube, right? And what I encourage you, the listener, if you want to continue this project and kind of grow it, because it only has X amount of cards anyways. And I wanted to kind of round this out. I guess we'll do 180, but probably 360. That'll take forever in a day. But if we built this out and I started seeing archetypes forming up, it would become a thing. It would gel. So people are kind of looking what other people have added and then springing off that idea. And or just go off on your own branch, right? Make your own role and then allow another micro synergy to kind of unwind. You guys talked about this on LPR with Goblin Charbelcher, and you did this with
Yeah, we've done 2 episodes where we just started with one card and just sort of like spun out from there and figured out how would we build a card, not that's like, or build a cube, not that's just about one card, but using that as kind of the seed crystal. And I think this is kind of a similar idea where you're just saying like, hey, a bunch of people give us your little seed crystals and then we'll flesh out the cube from there.
Yeah, so it was trade routes. And then you had Goblin Charbelcher, correct?
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
you demonstrated how you could use like that divergent thinking process to kind of break off from it. I highly recommend listening to this episode, and I will include it in the show notes because it will help you. I want to go back to the either you're a veteran curator and or you want to do it the first time, and you can see how people are thinking about Cube. And they're not like they're not looking at it as just like holistically powered vintage. This is more of a thematic, just fun build that will just springboard off of each other. That's the idea.
I wonder how some cards might sort of invoke an emotional reaction, because Goblin Charbelcher is an interesting one to me. We have a friend, Kevin, right? Mm-hmm. He was a legacy player. He was a tournament grinder for a long time, and his deck of choice was Goblin Charbelcher, right? So for anyone that it's like an artifact, you play it, you sack it, and then you reveal cards from your library until you reveal is it a basic land or something, and then you reveal a mountain and you deal a ton of damage. Anyway, he would get a lot of negative reactions to him playing Goblin Charbelcher, right? So he would go up against some people that were like, oh, I've played this, I've got this really great deck and I've spent all this money and you're coming on with this BS combo deck and yada, yada, yada. And he said it was a fun deck for him to play because it was fast. And he's like, I just want to play a deck that I can get the games over with because I want to go and get lunch. Maybe he's going to get some spider sushi
My favorite
rolls,
thing about Magic
something
is
like
when
that.
I can stop playing Magic as quickly as possible.
Exactly. I just want to get out of here and go get lunch and go see what cards I can buy. But I wonder how that, as from a psychological aspect, impacts like really veteran and really weathered Magic players, and maybe even the tournament grinders. Like, how does that impact your cube choices, right? Because you've got these, I don't know if I would necessarily say that Goblin Charbelcher is like a bugaboo kind of card where there's some negative like sentiment towards it because it was considered kind of cheesy. And this is incredibly off topic, and I tend to do this, and I apologize. But I think these conversations sometimes, may be worthwhile. Like when you're building a cube like that, maybe, don't worry about that, that Hogarth was the terrorizer of modern, or that Goblin Charbelcher was like some cheesy legacy card or something like that. Like they can be such fun, fundamental elements to a cube. And I think, that these are kind of fun experiments, can kind of showcase how you can use them well.
I'll make a statement, and I'm going to ask May, then I'll ask Anthony. I'll just say context matters. Environmental context matters. You take a card, a fish out of water, and you place it in a cube. It may have an attached, stigma to the card, but you can reform that. You can reshape that. May, what are your thoughts on that?
Spoiler alert for the upcoming changes to the Fake Cube. One of the cards I'm going to be throwing in is Murderous Redcap. And usually, yeah, I know, Stu. I saw that face.
It's one of my favorites. Okay.
It is a card that I always fundamentally defend, where it's just like, this is just a good playable card that can probably go in a lot of environments. However, when people look at this card, they're asking, is the combo in here? Am I going to be doing something with this? And there will be people who kind of jump to the assumption that, yes, the combo's in here, therefore I'm going to go for it. Spoiler, the combo's going to be in there.
All right, Fake Cube's back on the menu. Let's go.
Anthony, what are your thoughts on that?
Delicious.
Yeah, just to build off what May's saying, I think that I definitely, when I started cubing, kind of was I was very scared and cautious about including cards that were part of known combos. It's like, Pestermite is kind of a perfect regular cube card. It's like, it's fine. It's a C plus or C minus, just like everything else here. But I was worried that people would see it and be like, oh, I'm going to draft the combo, and then get disappointed. But the reality is, I think that the cube community has matured enough that we look at a pack and it's like, oh, these cards are all like a grizzly bear with small upside. Clearly, this is not the context where I'm going to see a Kiki Jiki. So, yeah, I'm just going to actually be a little bit smarter about that and have better expectations. So that's kind of made that a lot easier, I think, over the last couple of years as the cube community has evolved. But then I think also in your case, where then you do actually have the combo that's only just going to delight somebody who knows about it and is looking for it.
This guy.
And building off of what Stu was saying, it's like, I think that a lot of cards can be very risky and constructed in a way that they can't nearly be in a cube, because you only have one of them usually. Not necessarily, but most people are running a singleton cube still. And you have to like draft a deck around it and hope you draw it. So like, I think it's actually just upside that you can include these kind of cards. Like for me, I see a Guild Globe in a pack and I'm triggered. It's like, oh, this memory of I know what this card does in the Turbo Cube, or I know what this card does in Modern, or I know what this card did in Standard in 2016. But it's not going to bring along with it all the sort of like potentially toxic, problematic, repetitive, frustrating play patterns, because it's a cube. It's got this like high variance built in. So yeah, throw in those cards and use it as an opportunity to like pull on people's heartstrings, and you don't really have to worry that much.
Interesting that there is still that appreciation though for those kind of cards, right? That cube curators generally do tend to have that conscious sort of, I know that these cards are going to get judged. Ultimately, when you first look at it, some people might look at it as say, oh my gosh, those broken combo cards, like, oh my gosh, like I think the Splinter Twin, Kiki Jiki, Pestamite, those kind of cards, like, am I going to look at that and think, is the combo in here? Absolutely. Do I generally, and maybe I'll put this out to you as a question. Let's say you've got this cube and you've got Pestamite in it, okay? The combo is not in there. Do you communicate that beforehand? Let's say you got a brand new cube, right? 360, shuffling up, getting ready to draft. Do you tend to communicate that with your players before you sit down and draft? Like cards that could potentially be misread, or cards that you want to make sure that there's an awareness of the players, like, hey, yes, some of those combos might exist, rather than they're just in there for value?
I mean, that's really where my apprehension that I mentioned came from, is that I really don't want to. If I'm designing an environment, I want people to just be able to sit down and play it. Before every draft, I want to give a little spiel of like, hey, here's how I want the cards back, and like, make sure you have a good time, and whatever. And people can only absorb like three or 4 points, and then they're kind of checked out. So if one of those 3 or 4 points has to be Kiki Jiki is not here, that's a lot of equity you're giving up. So, I mean, in general, if that has to be explained, there are 30,000 Magic cards. I'd rather pick another card which isn't going to put that extra burden on that experience.
Okay.
I agree entirely.
I
I try not to explain a lot about, let's say, individual cards, because there's already, like Anthony said, there's already a small amount of things that I can say before it's just checked out.
Yeah, which card you talking about here, man? Let's be accurate here. A lot of people are going to copy your lists, okay? It's a popular cube.
So, kind of pulling it back, it's interesting. So, I'm going to encourage you again for the umpteenth time to go look at this list. And so now we get the divergent thinking. So, you can see where Shoop was kind of following a mechanical role. And then you go to the next person that kind of followed a mechanical role, but integrated the idea of the seas and the ocean, because they were following the thematic gist of the sushi concept. But then we got a good friend, Sam McKenna, that went divergent even further. Like, you can see where people will take stuff and they'll parse it out. They're either a literal thinker, or they're doing different viewpoints of this. They're either taking the card on face value, or they're taking the name of the card. They're taking like subtleties in the art of the card to apply to their ingredients, or etc. May, would you mind taking on the unroll by Chef Sam McKenna, please?
Sure. So the unroll is, in Sam's words, a zany selection of culinary curation, where it's a selection of uncards. And we have, I just want to say, I adore that we're starting off with Cheaty Face, of all the things, right?
Have you guys played with Cheaty Face before?
I have not. I avoid
have not, but I want to so
silverboard
bad.
cards like the plague.
I've cast it, or sorry, I've never cast it. I've snuck it into play once or twice, and it makes me so anxious.
It's so fun. It's sneaky, it's cheaty, it's Cheaty Face. It's wonderful. Then we have Knight of the Kitchen Sink, which is probably one of the strongest cards in this environment right now. Just
shout out to
protection from
Sam,
Black
because
Border.
we told him about his cube too. He runs this actually in Sam's single-sided shiny cube, and we've just all kind of like, God, Sam, it's literally Knight of the Kitchen Sink is crushing our souls. He's like, you can deal with it. I'm like, no, I really can't.
Then there's Masterful Ninja, which you play from your hand, but not really. It's a weird card, but I also kind of love it for what it's doing. And Booster Tutor, which is just a classic cube card. I'm not sure where the flavor is in terms of where the actual sushi roll is, but
Just said the word
these are
un.
just fun cards.
It just said un, and not that, Sam is one of our Patreons, and not that, we want to say that he has essentially given us money to give him a shout out and mention his name on the podcast, or
times.
talk about him at all. But Sam, you absolute lunatic, right? Love you to pieces. This is kind of crazy from a cube perspective, because I don't even know where you're going with this. Like, I really don't. Are you just trying to, like, Cheaty Face you're cheating in, Knight of the Kitchen Sink is protection from Black Border, Booster Tutor, you're opening a new pack. Like, this seems to be, like, so unbelievably discombobulated that I think it just works because of the ridiculous amount of chaos that will ensue if you include these kind of cards in your cube.
Disclaimer, Sam plays with us
I'm
on
here
Thursday
for it,
nights,
so-
He does.
He's our buddy.
He's
so we
wonderful.
We can beat him up a little bit here.
He's
But I
wonderful.
want to unpack Booster Tutor. Let's pause on that card. This is a card that I groan a little bit about. I groan because, pulling from, I guess, what is it? Let me see. Open sealed magic. Oh, yeah. So pulling from outside of the game, right? From your sideboard, I guess is how this card is played. Is that correct? Am I saying that
Nope.
right?
No.
How do you approach this card?
I've seen it played two ways. One is actually you open up a real booster pack, and real men use Arabian Nights booster packs, it must be said. I was for a second like, it sucks. Why did they say real men? But then no, it is making fun of that like machismo. So I'm good with this flavor text. The other way I've seen it played, and I've played it in some of my own cubes, is if your cube is bigger than 360 or however many you need for the draft, you just grab 15 cards from the rest of the cube cards. And this card is really strong in that case, especially when I was playing it in my regular cube, which is like kind of like limited level or master set level, power level. It's just like, it's not quite one mana demonic tutor, but it got you always like a threat, fixing, or removal spell, which is pretty scary.
I was going to say, it's literally 1 black mana, choose the best card for you at that time at instant speed. Like, that is very, very, very powerful. Yes, the limitation could be, and look, if someone's out there that wants to include this in their sushi cube or whatever, and you want to literally put 15 Arabian Nights. You want to have a whole stack, the whole Arabian Night set. You want to have the whole Arabian Night set and just randomly take 15 cards and shuffle them up, and that's what the player gets to choose from. Good for you. Or if you want to take 15 cards that are left from your cube, I think that's cool also, right? There's nothing about this that isn't fun to me. This is fun. I don't care where it fits in.
There is one thing about this card that is not fun, and that's how long it takes to resolve.
But I'm talking about for me, right? Because I'm very selfish, right? The fun is zero sum. I want to do this, and then I want to watch the curator, right? The owner of this cube, who's sitting 2 chairs down, playing at their own match. And now they have to run to the top of the table. They have to get their box out. They have to get 15 cards together. Then they have to shuffle them. Then they have to run them back to me. Then I have to choose one. Then you get where this is going.
I'm going to get them out of the basic land station, and I'm going to get all planes. Problem solved.
I'm playing a white deck.
I mean, forget that. Just like choose between these 15 cards you haven't thought about before for your deck. That takes a second.
It'd be funny if it was your
the first
own
time you cast it at instant speed, and your opponent's like, now you're doing this on my turn? This is supposed to be my time.
I'm just going to give them their own
They're going
sideboard.
to time.
That's it. It's your own sideboard. There's you go. Pick one card. You can have that one.
So I can't recall who the credit's going to go to, but what was interesting too that I received was some sake. So people started, as they started doing this, they're expanding their thoughts again. So not only am I getting this list of sushi rolls and these weird, like, I guess some of them are very alliterative and some of them are very visually driven. But now I get people that are like, well, if I'm going to enjoy this menu, I'm going to wash it down with some sake. And they chose like Serum Visions, but they got the Secret Lair art where this beautiful individual is sipping from this cup, and we're just going to go ahead and visually assume it's some form of tea or sake. And then we've got Elixir of Mortality, which is the bottle of the rice wine or some sort, right? I thought this was so flavorful just to add this in. They're making a menu. And it's kind of, again, it's that expanding notion. And this is kind of like what I want to give full credit to LPR, Andy and Anthony, for talking about this idea of taking stuff like trade routes or taking the idea of Goblin Charbelcher. It creates a new, like, divergent thinking system where you see people go, sure, you want this, but how about I go ahead and just start making your drinks for you, start making you cocktails because you're here for a wonderful dinner. It's a full course meal, not just the roll. So you, the listener, if you're interested, either the UberCube Discord, which we include in the show notes, and or the Cube Cobra link, to send me the ideas, and I'll include them, and we'll make sure we shout them out in the future. Because I think this is such a neat, like, we don't know where this is going, right? I don't know if this is ever going to become paper, but it would be really cool if it did.
I don't think it necessarily has to become paper here, and I will always take an opportunity to give a plug where I can to anyone that might be listening to this podcast, right? And look, LPR, UberCube, whatever. If you're not Cube experienced and you're looking for a reason to get into it, right? Look at this, right? This isn't something we've talked about previously, but I'm going to plug it now. Look at this as maybe the way that you build a commander deck. You see a commander that you like, and then you look for 3 or 4 cards that just go with it, that thematically go with it, that artistically go with it, right? You have the beginning of your cube, right? You have the beginning of an archetype. Look within your play group. Look for, hey, let's take 4 of our commanders that might somehow synergize just a little bit together, but just give us the building blocks that we need for a cube. And there you go.
There you go. I agree. Anthony, what are your thoughts on that?
Sorry, I'm a little bit distracted because I thought you said elixir of mortality, and I was like, for sure they've made this in a Modern Horizon set.
What we don't
recently
talk about
as a joke.
I'm sorry, Anthony, I should have mentioned this. What we don't do on any episode, any recording, is we never discuss Anthony's pronunciation of magic cards. Okay, we just
Magic is hard.
accept it.
No. That wasn't his pronunciation. That was my hearing. I just.
You are
lost
so
an
kind.
M.
You are much kinder than I am.
Elixir of immortality. I'm certain I said mortality.
See, it's
short time.
I blame the card name, but that's like they're doing phage and flage, and what was the other one that came up
Anthony
recently?
Bear,
Where I was
we
like,
love you
why
very
would they white of the reliquary? Well, they're deliberately trying to trip us up at this point.
Yeah, they are.
Benjamin Franklin patted me on the back. I'm just adjusting all the phonetics of the English language as we speak. But now it's time, I believe, for Anthony's mystery roll that we're about to unveil here.
Hang on, drum roll.
All right. Well, I mean, don't drum roll it because we got to take this slowly, right?
We'll drum roll post.
So, from the moment where I listened to your episode, I was immediately like, well, how would I, if theoretically I was to have to make one of these rolls, how would I approach this? And I started with kind of the literal first level, like a couple people have, where it's like, let's thematically go with a sushi roll that's got crabs, it's got rice, it's got fish, and that's a sushi roll. And it was difficult. I couldn't find any cards almost at all that mentioned rice at all. So I was like, okay, scrap that. What if we go in a little different direction? What if we, let's make a miso soup, like with the libations that have been added to the cube. I was thinking in a little bit of a similar direction. And I know we can have Wall of Kelp. I know where I can find some beans on a magic card, but I could not find anything that I was comfortable calling katsuobushi, so miso soup was out. So I decided to step back even a little bit further and say, like, okay, you want to make an episode about food, let's just talk about sort of like kitchen process more generally. Does that seem fair? Is that okay to put this in the
That's
No,
fair.
absolutely.
subject?
No,
Yeah.
This is entirely creative interpretation.
Yes.
That's the
Okay,
beauty
great.
of this
Great.
cube, is that it's supposed to be this generic prompt that you're supposed to try to fit into your perspective.
Hey,
and
before
trying
we
to
end,
make it
though,
work.
make sure you sanitize your hands and put on your hairnet. We don't want to get any of that in our face.
Exactly. So my first card is hairnet. I don't know if you saw this in one of the recent Commander set. It's an equipment protection from hair.
I don't need.
So my first card, of course, if we're talking about like what is important in a kitchen, what is like the first rule, it's your mise en place. You got to have your mise en place, and there is actually a card in Magic the Gathering called Mise. So we're going to include Mise. So what this is it's a 1 mana for a 1 blue mana. It's an instant. Name a non-land card, then reveal the top card of your library. If this card is the named card, draw 3 cards. So this is perfect flavor for the Sushi Cube, because if you've done your mise en place, if you've done your mise, as they call it in the biz, which I'm not part of, no stolen valor here, you get rewarded. You get Ancestral Recall just for knowing what the top card of your library is. So I think this is just like a perfect, flavorful card. I actually really love this picture with the 3 dogs on it. I bought this card just because I adore it so much, and I currently have it on a little easel on my desk just so I could look at it.
It's got
All right, so have I sold you on
collie,
Mise?
a pug, and
Oh,
looks like a golden
easily.
retriever.
Perfect.
Pretty great.
All right, but you're probably going to have a question at this point, which is, how are we going to make this work? Like, naming 1 out of the 30 cards left in your deck, that's, like, not that fun. We want to be able to do a little bit of preparation. Again, we're in the kitchen, we're focused on preparation, we're focused on making this work. We're going to need to be able to see what that next card is so we can actually name it correctly. So the next card I want to add to my sushi roll is yet another Aether Vortex. This is, again, a card that I just adore. This is a 5 mana, 3 red enchantment. All creatures have haste. Players play with the top card of the library is revealed, and non-sorcery cards on top of a library are in play under their owner's control in addition to being in the library. So just like we have the Masterful Ninja that's in multiple zones at once, yet another Aether Vortex is going to do the same thing. Putting everything that's on top of libraries also in play. I mean, we're talking about sushi rolls. It's a vortex. Like, what more do you want? Like, this is perfect. And, you're in the kitchen. As much as it's important to be prepared, it's also very important that you are quick and timely. So giving everything haste is going to work perfectly. It's going to help us with our mise. This is all about kitchen workflow.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Are you with me?
I am.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm here for this.
I'm speechless. I'm legitimately speechless. This is phenomenal.
All right, so we're going to keep this going, and we still want to make sure we want to make that mise work for us, which means we're going to need more than one effect that's going to help us out here. And something else that I think is so important in the kitchen, even though we're talking about preparedness and focus and being prompt about things, we also want to be having fun with it and being willing to experiment a little bit. So this next card I've chosen is Experimental Frenzy. This is a 4-mana enchantment, 3 in a red. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. Again, we know what we're casting. You can't play cards from the top of your library, or you may play the top card of your library. You cannot play cards from your hand, and you can also pay 4 mana to destroy this, so if it's no longer working for you, get rid of it.
That's cute.
Similar
I like
vein
that.
to our yet another Aether Vortex. It doesn't quite necessarily have the punch. It's not going to let us play all of our creatures off the top of our library, but it is still going to help us out there and let us have some fun and be creative in the kitchen.
I thought about experimenting just for a little while, not to play on the word experimental, but I did put this in my powered vintage cube for 0 drafts and then took it out immediately. But I thought that I could do something interesting and broken with this card. So I'm curious to see this in the Sushi-Go Cube.
I am too, and I will say
I have a copy foiled out.
Listen, I always looked at this, and back in my Commander days, I was so excited about this card. And then eventually I was like, okay, I'm just going to put that aside and not think about it anymore. But this is such a fun card. We always talk about where's the fun. This is the fun.
Pairs well.
This is going to be fun.
It asks you to live a dream. It's like, this comes at a high cost, but you can have a lot of power. This was actually, in my first iteration of my cube as well. And it didn't last super long. Wasn't the right spot for it, but one of these days it'll make it back into a cube.
Okay. And what do we got next there, right, Chef Anthony?
All right. And the last card should need no explanation because it's Greater Gargadon. So clearly you understand why this is here.
I actually don't. Explain.
Yeah.
Tell us.
Oh, no, might as well.
First of all.
All right.
So I've long lived a dream, if I have to just be a little bit face up about this, of having yet another Aether Vortex in play and sacrificing all of these permanents to my suspended Greater Gargadon off the top of my library. And I just think that would be the coolest thing ever.
Self-serving means is what we did here.
Never thought about that, but that's funny. I'm here for it.
I love it.
That's fantastic.
I love it.
You're going to need a Greater Gargadon in the kitchen.
Yeah. So I'm going to add all these to the show notes for your viewing pleasure, and I will also upload these at some point this evening on today's date to the actual Sushi-Go Cube so the viewers can see it hot and live. And Chef Anthony Mattox will be recognized in that for his contribution, and we will try to find a hairnet somewhere along this line. It's kind of like I'm trying to find a wheelbarrow. I'm still working on a wheelbarrow for the Monopoly. Yeah, there
are nets. I think it kind of shows a little bit, right? Because we love Sam. He's a wonderful human being. I don't want to say he's crazy, but he's given us 4 uncards, and then immediately Anthony shows up with 2 uncards. Right? What does this say about your personality? I mean, this is incredibly creative, in my opinion. I think it's just magnificent to go that route, right? Because I didn't think about that, right? I'm not very smart. I'll just put it out there. So for you to put that as kind of where you wanted your theme to go, right? So it's not just, I want to build a roll, I'm looking for some ingredients. You're taking a step back. That shows some wonderful creativity to take it from I'm looking at it from the kitchen, right? I'm the little spotlight that's got an eye on the stove and what's in the fridge and all that. Like, I think that's so cool about what Cube can be like, right? Look through your collection, look through your commander decks, look through, go 40,000 feet up and look at it from a really, really cool perspective. I love that.
Does this make you a sous chef for the preparation portion, out of curiosity? Question mark?
Does this make me a sous chef?
Correct.
I mean, the truth is, I'm not any kind of chef. I'm a home cook, and I think there's honor and respect in being a home cook.
What is a chef, really, though? I mean, come on. Do you have to get paid?
An administrator of a...
Look,
A chef knows how to delegate to other people and how to, make a kitchen work. I can make a sushi roll at home alone.
I'm not going to denigrate a one-man band, right? Because they can play guitar and stamp their foot and they're playing a drum or any of that kind of stuff. Like, you're doing everything all at once. You're controlling the kitchen and you're not feeding people tarantula meat, which I was a little disappointed about. Not going to lie, I was kind of hoping that was going to be in there.
We can add. You said I can do 2 to 5, right? So let's check out what
let's go. Go ahead. I want to state this as well.
But no, I also.
Let me.
I appreciate what you said, Stu, but I also feel like this is a classic example of constraints forcing creativity, because I tried to just I went through all the cards on Scryfall Tagger that had food tagged in them, and I couldn't find anything with rice in it except for a bunch of secret layers that are already onigiri, and that felt like not fair.
You did the same thing that I did, because I immediately went and looked for rice. I searched Scryfall.
That's what you need. That's what sushi is.
Don't judge me for this. I even searched like EDH Rec and places. Like, I went crazy trying to find anything that had some kind of rice imagery or anything, and I just couldn't find it. I couldn't find anything that I was like, yes, that is a great representation for rice. And then when I thought about it afterwards, I was like, man, if I found something for rice, if I've looked this hard, someone else is going to have found it, and that's kind of loses its luster for me, because I want to be a little more creative.
Let's revisit his role. Anthony, would you mind pulling up Mystic Merfolk Roll by Chef Stu, please, and we can kind of talk about his choices. Let's analyze this a little bit as a group.
Absolutely. So Mystic Merfolk Roll, dive into the depths of delight with this refreshing roll featuring crab, salmon, tempura, cream cheese, and cucumber, elegantly crowned with fresh avocado.
We'll explain.
We've got Frost Fair Lure Fish. That's a mouthful right there, so I guess that works with the flavor.
As sushi
a
should,
mirror
though.
shell crab, Havoc, and Rumbleweed.
Avocado.
Get it?
Yeah, he went funny.
I mean, it's one of those things
there
where,
says it all.
yeah, at the time you're thinking, man, this is so, and then now, oh my gosh, this is the cringiest thing I've ever done in my life.
It's burnt in.
And I've
now.
done a lot
It's
of cringe stuff.
It is part of the cube now.
I don't want it to.
Stu picked the most sideboard of sideboard sushi roll cards to add into this.
You can say whatever you like about me, but you do not badmouth my mirror shell crab. Okay,
Yeah, those are
you
excellent,
leave that alone.
excellent, on point.
And my Rumbleweed.
Yeah, I'll give you
And
that.
even Frostfair Lurefish. I mean, it's a 7-mana 7/7 that creates tokens and gives your fish haste and can't be blocked by humans and have foretell. Right?
Let's talk about Rumbleweed for a minute. I know, May, you were actually interested. Are you adding that to the fake cube? It caught your eye last episode. Is the fire burned out?
May is trying
No
not
spoilers.
That's a no.
More
What
spoilers.
is this? What is this?
But the
idiot
temptation is still there.
She's looking at me like
The temptation has not subsided. I had a long conversation with Kate about it.
Nice.
It's a cool card.
So Anthony and I, let's kind of switch gears a little bit. We got a little bit of time to spare. Would you all agree? Everybody got time? We're goofing off a little bit. Anthony and I recently got to attend the Capital Cube Championships, and we were both fresh that morning. You said you had your cup of coffee, and at that time, I swear I was still drinking coffee at that point. We got to actually play a little bit of Magic together. It was great. And you built, I don't know if you heard our episode where we talked about the Capital Cube Championships, but I complimented you. You built a machina, and you didn't mean to do this. It was good. Can you tell us a little bit about that deck?
Yeah, I mean, I think this was the perfect outcome because you got the real victory of, I think I was the only person that beat you that day, and so you got into top 8, which was super exciting to see, but I got my pin from that draft, so I got everything I needed from Capital Cube Champ.
You got Dreddy the Iconoclast and Mimic Vat, and there was nothing I could do to stop that. Like, it was working so smoothly because I was playing off of ETBs, total fear of actually exposing my cards to you. Because then you get to put them in your Mimic Vat and then utilize them against me. It was so good.
Yeah, the combination of, like, I just had... I've played Dreddy mostly in Andy's Cube, where everything is, like, really low to the ground, and this is the Bun Magic Cube, and that card is very good, but also it's always under pressure. You don't necessarily have a lot of fodder to sacrifice to it. And then drafting in this artifact-themed cube and just realizing, oh, I just always have other artifacts that I either can or actively want to sacrifice. Like, I really want to sacrifice this to kill your thing to put this under Mimic Vat, and then I'm going to kill your thing that's going to have an ETB that I can put under Mimic Vat. It really did kind of all work together. It was a cool cube, especially, I'm going to ruin this name. What was it? Yigra?
Cube. Yeah.
The Yigra, the giant cat that turned everything else into food. There were just so many like weird interactions with it that ended up actually mattering in the games. I think that was really what was important to make it not just feel like a crazy weird situation, but it's like, no, this cube is about stuff like this happening. And so that was a lot of fun.
It was a great cube. I like seeing these little homegrown keep popping up. We've said this 1,000 times at this point, and I appreciate everything LPR does. Actually, you guys did a great job of building a page so people could see them as they're popping out. And I encourage everyone to just step out like Lincoln did and Scott Mertz and take that step and go ahead and get a cube event. We're doing that as a little side topic, but these 64 player events are really nice. Like they're great. They're localized. They feel intimate. And they're a great way for us to crescendo up to something like CubeCon.
We always talk about 64 as being like optimum as well, but really think about it. If you've got even 32 players, and if you've got a store nearby where you've got a healthy, regular attendance for whatever your format of choice might be, we found it that it was a little bit of a struggle for us to get near to 64. We ended up with like 40-something. But those 30-something tickets sold out pretty quickly. It was pretty easy for us to get 30-something players. You got 32 people, 4 drafts, cut to 2, cut to 1. Like, that's a great day right there.
I would agree. May, you got some thoughts?
Yeah, if somebody else submits a roll, please add Igra.
Oh, yeah. It's so
add
good.
the eater of all into the sushi roll cube.
Turn everything into food, including any spiders that might be around. Now they're food.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I don't need to be reminded of that.
Roll.
Okay, no, yeah, this is the last time we talk about that.
I might actually test that card out because I was exposed to, well, for one thing, going back to Duretti, the Iconoclast, it revitalized my interest in that card. I've got a powered vintage cube, and it's always kind of just in this little kind of, I guess, hover mode of whether or not I'm going to cut it or not. And it solidified just seeing that interaction and how powerful it was and reminded me why I love that card so much. And then Igra, when it came out, I'm thinking, why am I not running this, my artifact cube, Uberbear's artifact cube? I may have to pick up a copy of that because it converted all your stuff, all your creatures, right, into food tokens. This is like amazing for those constructs and whatnot. This card was just something I never even was on my radar. So I like it when I see people do like these, I guess we'll call it the divergent thinking. They're going outside the box and they're reading these cards at different levels and going, oh, well, this, I would have never seen this as an artifact card. It's so good.
Yeah, I mean, it's in a really weird space where I was drafting and I took it very, very highly and thought of it as, this card seems like it's not really playing into the theme. It just seems kind of overpowered for what, if everybody's trying to do the artifact thing, I'm just going to play this like 5-mana 6/6 that's going to grow to be huge. But then the fact that I was sort of duped into now I'm actually making all these artifact synergies happen was kind of like a funny turnabout. So I don't know. There's also a risky element to it where in some games, the fact that it turned my opponent's other creatures into artifacts really, really mattered. So sometimes it just sat in my hand and I couldn't play it.
So this was a fun episode. We did a little bit of food for you. We did a little bit of weird sushi.
Still food. That's still food talk.
We even ended on some weird card that makes food tokens. I mean, we're not even trying here, folks. It just comes together naturally. But I want to start out by thanking Anthony for joining the show. And we'd love to have you back on, and we want to have all your partners in crime on the show too, because this is just fun. People have been begging me a little secret sauce for you here. I get little emails. Oh my God, we love crossover episodes. Could you reach out to these people? Because they want to hear us talk and share our ideas, right? They want to hear this community kind of form. And what I think this really does is shows that we're all a unit, right? We're all got our own shows or our own YouTube channels or whatever. But I think it's so cool when you get different people sharing ideas.
Yeah, we need to have Anthony on a serious episode, is what I'll say.
Yeah, for sure.
This wasn't serious?
This was mildly serious.
Maybe the food bit
I
at the
put
start
so much
was,
time into my sushi roll.
but
This is a serious statement.
I'm taking it
I got
seriously.
I got some silverboard
I don't know
cards
about
in there, but
Very
I put a lot of thought into it.
Very serious.
This is a blast. And
you did wonderfully.
Tell Andy we're challenging him too to join this episode. We're going to have one for him too, because I want to kind of talk about some of your cube designs. I think you guys are just doing amazing things on the LPR show to just help this community in so many ways. Think about, like, I can see behind you, you've got the cube map. I mean, we're grateful.
Oh yeah, I love that. I got almost every signature from all the Cube designers from last year.
Yeah. I mean, we're grateful for all the things that you guys do. It's amazing. I can't say it enough. Thank you, and thank you to everybody on your show and how much contributions you do to make this community better. So
I really appreciate that. That means a lot. It's been really fun to honestly, this community has just developed. It came out of not much over the last couple of years, and it's been really fun to see and really gratifying. And it's just fun, going to all these events and seeing people, the narrative shift from the Magic Online cube is the only cube to seeing people I'm going to do this weird experimental thing, and it's very flavor forward, and it's just about what me and my local playgroup enjoys. That's so fun to see. Yeah, and I really appreciate you having on. This has been a blast to record. So
awesome.
All right, Stu, would you mind
much.
Taking us over to the socials?
All right, first of all, I want to give a huge shout out to all of our Patreons: Timber, Brian, Keaton, Lord Justice, Chris Singer, Nickel Point, Preston, and Sam Silverboarded McKenna. Huge shout out to you guys. Thank you for the ongoing support. If you want to get in on the discussion, check out the Magic the Gathering Facebook drafting page at facebook.com/groups/MTGCube. As always, if you enjoy this show, as with any of our other episodes, we would truly appreciate. Give us a 5-star review on your chosen podcast platform. You can also support the show by using our ultasleeves.com/UberCube affiliate link. Get 5% off your purchase.
And it's very important right now. Anthony, tell us how they can reach us on the socials. Tell us how we get to all the LPR cool stuff.
you can listen to my podcast at luckypaper.co. You can also, if you want to follow me personally, follow me at Mattox on Twitter. Sometimes I tweet about, if I do some article or something, I'll tweet about it, but mostly I just will tweet about food, or I guess technically I have an Instagram too, same handle. I just sometimes post food pics, but rarely.
I like food.
I like food.
You should like food. Everyone should like food and magic.
Sounds no, like this is the food episode, so yeah, I should pump that. Go follow me on Instagram to see my food pics.
Yeah, I mean the food was great. The cocktail sounds amazing. I'm sold already. Yeah, heck yeah.
Thank you to Famous New Orleans Drinks and How to Mix Them by Stanley Clisby Arthur.
Nice.
If you got the ISBN number as well,
absolutely. Yeah, 1 second here.
Could you give us also the Dewey Decibel System, please, so we can find it at our local
No,
library?
I do not stand for Dewey.
Carry on, Keebler.
If you want to support our show, again, you can also use our Inked Gaming affiliate link, inkgaming.com/UberCube. Get all kinds of custom playmats, dice bags, mouse pads, large volume products available for your cube experience. You can find us at Twitter. We are at UberCubeMTGPod. You can also reach us via email. If you've got a longer question or a comment about an episode or the show in general, we are UberCubeMTGPodcast at gmail.com and hashtag UberCube. Come join us on the Discord. It's fun.
It's fun, yeah.
We've got all kinds of fun conversation going on over there. Show us your pick one, pack ones. Show us your decks.
Yep.
I haven't deck boast.
We just need to make a channel.
I need to. We just need to make.
Call it deck boast and get rid of UberCube.
Is it there?
People love the deck boast so much.
Deck boast is.
There is a deck boast channel?
It's the best Discord channel in the universe.
It is. It's not even close. I don't even know why we're doing the rest of the stuff.
And first of all, let's give a shout out. First of all, again to Mr. Anthony Mattox. Big thank you to you for enjoying your time on our show, I hope, and spreading your joy of Cube throughout the community of Cube and Magic in general. Amazing show. Lucky Paper Radio, for anyone that's been literally living under a rock for the last 3-4 years, however long. Just the absolute cream of the crop as far as Cube content is concerned. Wonderful. Just cannot speak highly enough. Go listen to it. It'll educate you. It'll entertain you. It's the bee's knees. Huge thanks, Anthony. I really do appreciate it. This has been great fun. Thank you all for the gift of Cube.
Stu bringing back bee's knees.
Bee's knees, baby.
Ooh, that's going to be my cocktail for next time.
All right, and we're going to finish it off with the comments, with the speech, with the slogan.
Happy
Cube.